I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
I'm Dylan.
We are Pop Culturists and this is Pop CTV. Today, we're going to be talking about the X-Men Apocalypse, levelingly reviewed by Dylan himself at popculturist.com. But we thought, let's discuss it a little bit. A review is well and good, but there's nothing like three dudes talking about shit on the internet. Dylan, synopsis, please.
Okay.
Yes,
So, X-Men Apocalypse is the sixth film, technically, in the X-Men franchise. It's directed by Bryan Singer, and it's the third movie in the First Class trilogy. So it features the younger X-Men, James McAvoy as Professor X, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, and various other X-Men in between. The plot this time around is about the apocalypse. And actually, Apocalypse. So, an ancient Egyptian mutant who is supposedly the first mutant has risen again to wreak havoc on society, decimate it, rebuild it from scratch, and it's up to the X-Men to stop him. So, gents, what did we think of X-Men Apocalypse?
The overall impressions?
Yeah, just overall idea. Yay or nay?
Movie's garbage.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's garbage.
Could you be a little clearer? You mean garbage as in the positive things you leave on the side to pick up as like second-hand
That's hard rubbish. Hard rubbish.
Oh,
like, if you want to do this
not hard rubbish.
Yeah, hard rubbish is a good thing. Garbage.
You lived off hard rubbish for a while.
As I said, I've said it many of times. My entire house when I lived in St Kilda was, almost all my furniture was.
But X-Men is not furniture; it is garbage.
No, it is garbage. I don't because I know we're going to break it down further. So yeah, I'm just going to say it's garbage, and we'll break it down a bit further. I don't want to
Josh, what do you think?
I don't think it's as bad as Ryan says. It's enjoyable, but it didn't quite have the punch I was kind of hoping it would.
Interesting.
Like in terms of character attachment, I guess you'd say.
Okay. I would say that it is not good. It's like a little bit under good, a little bit under average, I'd say. It's underwhelming. Underwhelming is probably what I'd say. But
yeah, that's probably a better word than garbage.
Okay, so do we want to talk about the positives first? Let's take it out of the garbage for a little while.
Now
Let's dust it off.
We should mention straight out of the gate, this is obviously spoilers, of course. If you care for this movie, spoilers.
And you haven't seen it yet?
Yep.
Yeah. Brian, what would you say in your positives?
Okay, so in terms of the positives, it comes down to two performances. One of Quicksilver, who's the actor I've completely blanked out of right now. Evan Peters from Kick-Ass.
American History, not American Horror Story as well.
Yeah, he is phenomenal.
American Horror Story X. Man.
Yeah, that. Shut the fuck up.
Look, he was phenomenal in this role. I think he brings such a warmth to Quicksilver.
Yeah.
It really brings something. Like, he's in the movie for about 5-10 minutes, very similar to Days of Future Past, but he brings just something.
Did you notice the part where they were like, "Where's Professor Xavier?" He's like, "Don't know, bro."
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
And Fassbender is gold as Magneto. There were moments that he kind of was pooey. That's the storyline of his character.
More the writing than anything.
More the writing.
When he's in a bowl of emotion.
Yeah.
A middle bowl of emotion.
However,
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
The start where he looks at where they sort of deal with him living in Poland to sort of start new and have a family and be a normal guy.
Etch out a new life.
Very interesting. And they dabbled in his concentration camp history, which is something that always fascinated me. And I think I'd be really interested to see more.
Did you just
That's
say
you're
it
German, I think.
fascinated you?
Oh!
Please don't high five again.
Josh?
Fuck. I'm with Brian. Quicksilver. I think I've just got an erection for speedsters because you know me by now. He brings something different. And I was asking Dylan, like, what comics can I read where it's this Quicksilver, and there's none apparently, which is a shame.
Maybe they've changed this since Days of Future Past to make him more like that, but he's more just like a generic guy.
And Sophie Turner did well, I think.
She managed to keep an American accent the entire time.
Particularly towards the end of the movie, like her character arc kind of changed, and all of a sudden, like, really interested. I'm like, wow, that's balls, like what she's doing. That's cool as shit. That's about the only positives I have. Really. But then everything else isn't a negative either. It was just it's there. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. I
don't know. I thought there were some good things. Some of the special effects were really bad, but some of the effects were really good. Like Angel's wings. Like when he was flapping around and flying, and just like the wire work to make it look like he's actually flying, I thought was really good. And like the effects, I don't know if they were practical or digital, but when he had his wounded wing and he's kind of flopping around, I thought that was awesome.
Cool.
All digital.
The way that they showed the power of Cyclops' optic blast, especially when that was that first scene where he blew the tree up, and it's like, that was my favourite tree. That was huge, where like takes it off and it blasts through the ground and across the water and up against the tree. That was pretty cool. Yeah. They did Cyclops justice finally. He's always been relegated to the background, one of the leader of the X-Men, and he's always been like a supporting character, so that was cool to see him up in front.
Yeah, as a main character played by an actor that should be a supporting actor.
Yeah, exactly. And the same as you were saying, Magneto, of course. That was really good, especially the emotion of the boy. I feel like it was like a different movie though. Like every scene with Magneto, like especially when he goes to the foundry, and like just the way that it was like shot, it looked really dreary and dull and artsy, and then it was really superpowery at the end.
Yeah.
But when he goes to the foundry, and he's like, you know why I'm here. You know what I did.
Yeah.
Shit's going down.
You know what you did.
Yeah.
By dobbing on me.
He's not even like angry about it. He's just like disappointed. Like, I'm going to have to kill you. That's what
I
do.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, like, you're going to have to die. So, and Quicksilver, of course, amazing. Spoilers.
It seems
incredible.
to be like globally.
Yeah. But like the way they up themselves.
Yeah, he's like the Batman in BVS for...
He's the equivalent. Like everyone can agree with that. And of course, we've been listening to Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics on loop.
Non-stop. Yeah, because that particular
I wonder if it'll go to like number one again. Like there are songs that feature in things.
I'm helping.
Yeah, well I am. I don't know.
I already purchased it.
I don't know if YouTube counts on loop, but yeah,
Spotify.
Yeah. Okay, so that's some of the positives. What about some of the negatives? I'm sure you've got a long list.
I have quite a few. For me,
try to save us some.
Yeah, I guess this one's a bit more of an open discussion. For me, it didn't have the oomph that it wanted. When someone says X-Men Apocalypse, you think shit's going to be huge and big, which it was. But they started the movie. They set the movie at like 80%, right? 80% bigness. Like this is huge. So by the time the third act runs around, when it's this fight between the X-Men and Apocalypse, there is only this much room for them to go.
Yeah.
They'll never hit 100, but they're like, all right, well, let's go to 90. And it's like, well, it's this much. Yeah. Like, if they establish the baseline at about 40, 50, like, that's still pretty big.
I get wanting to open strong.
Yeah, opening strong is huge.
But the opening, I thought, was really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like, but they said it that way, but they never brought it back down. It just kind of had Apocalypse, this looming force for this entire time. Yeah. There was no dip. So if it went boom and then came back and then finished like that, that would have been insane. But it stayed very steady. As I said, special effects were pretty much across the board kind of average. You know, there's some very obvious wire work, which kind of took the illusion out, especially with Psylocke, when her doing that flip that we see in all the trailers, and her jumping to land on a building. It just kind of, you could tell. Yeah. Well, that might come down to Olivia Munn not doing wire work before. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Psylocke, like, going from her being one of the four horsemen, like all of them except for Magneto were just like, who gives a shit? Yeah. Like their motivations aren't there. Like nothing is there. They're not believable villains. They don't get enough screen time.
Even collecting the four horsemen was not. It was just like you. They're like, all right.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I picked you. I can give you more power.
Yeah, and it wasn't like they were brainwashed. They were just like willingly joining, and he gave more power. But
like, I'll give you more power, and I'll make you a helmet out of literally the dust in the air. Yeah, there you go. And they're like, sweet. And there's that one moment where he's literally hand making it. He's like holding Angel. He's like, so nice.
I want the power, but I don't know about these costumes.
The motivation wasn't there for the Horsemen.
Yeah.
Except for Magneto.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, Magneto, I think that comes from us knowing him further.
Oh, and, of course.
They've sort of dipped a little bit more into his past.
Oh, but once he joined the Apocalypse,
he fell back.
Garbage.
He was nothing. Yeah. He just stood there and used his powers.
What else?
The underlying plot of is Magneto Quicksilver's dad? I don't give a shit if he's Quicksilver.
Well, he is.
Well, he is. As far as the movies go, like, well, we don't know, kind of. I don't care. I haven't been made to care.
That's a cliffhanger to be explored for next
time. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Please give me a solo movie on that.
this is something that you've talked about as well when we finished the movie, was the the misleading of Wolverine. The trailer sort of sets up as Wolverine's there and he helps us. He's part
back.
of the good guys.
Which he does.
But the answer is they find him in a cage.
For about 3.5 minutes.
They think he's an animal. They open the door and he berserker rages, which is actually should have been in my positives. Like his berserker rage.
Yeah, it was cool.
But
fucking awesome.
He does have like almost exactly like the Weapon X helmet that he wore in the comics, but it has more of a headpiece in it. And it looked stupid. It looked like plastic.
So dumb.
And it ruined it. I'm like, why are you wearing that stupid plastic headpiece on your head? Only at the end, like the very end. I'm just like,
I love the ambiguity of like they help him and she, what's her name? Jean takes off the thing, and then he literally runs into the snowy forest.
Yeah,
and he's never seen.
She
again.
says Logan, and he fucking legs it.
Yeah, I gave him some of his past back or something.
Part of his name,
but
he just like literally just ran off into the distance.
Yeah. None of the comedy landed for me either.
Oh, there was some good laughs.
I didn't laugh once.
That was my favourite tree. I like that part.
I was like, it's kind of...
Didn't you like his awkward, like, oh, I'm going to talk to Moira. I mean, I know you, but I don't, and I'm awkward and
not funny at all.
Because I don't like James McAvoy.
Whoa!
As Professor Xavier. I like him. I'm sure he's a nice
Well, what are some of your pet peeves, Josh?
Well, they've pretty much all been covered.
In that case, I'll add one more as well. Almost said Poe Dameron. Oscar Isaac is an incredible actor. We've seen this in his other work. He's phenomenal. They did not give him the justice in this movie. They put him under makeup that gave him this constant look of tired. Like in certain angles, the makeup looked almost perfect, and then every other time it looked the worst. And he was just a very bland villain. When you are the namesake of this movie, you need to bring it. And I don't feel
to like this is the ultimate villain. Like everything you've seen before is nothing. This is the apocalypse of the world. Yeah. And
he was like, bland. He was boring. He talked entirely in this voice to add the menacing. He's the stock standard. I'm here to cleanse the world villain, and he really should have been bigger and better.
He did have
just like the world he wanted to make.
He did have some bitchin' powers.
Which never really explained. It's just like, I can do things.
I can do things, like beheading the dudes with sand and moulding people into buildings.
Well, he did use like 1999's The Mummy special effects, so that's pretty good power. But he did seem like, he just looked like a grumpy old man. He was like old and he mumbled and he had cataracts in his eyes most of the time. If inappropriately touching people.
He wasn't imposing.
If
you think like Vader.
But you're not even not scared of him. You're not like, he's not like a threat.
Yeah,
even though he had all this power.
He's like, who the fuck are you? And like, Fast, that's perfect. I'm like, I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
If his forehead and his eyes didn't look so tired, I think he could have been a bit more menacing.
But he wasn't very active either.
And if they brought him up and made him a little bit big, like an impeding's probably the wrong word.
Imposing,
sorry. An imposing force is like, you're a big dude in person. And then you can back it up with big man powers.
Well, they teased in the trailers that he grows huge. Yeah, I was looking forward to it.
That was a mindfucking sequence.
Yeah, that's a trick. And there's not much more. Like, he follows McAvoy down the corridor a little more than in the trailers, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I can't believe I got tricked on that one.
I do, going back to another positive, though, and Quicksilver again, any scene involving him using his powers... Not just the scene everyone talks about with Sweet Dreams playing in the background in the school, but towards the end, the big final battle. Apocalypse is doing his thing, and the time slows down, and it's like Quicksilver's coming to do something really fucking cool, and then he just shows up in front of him, and he's like, boom, and starts going to town.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cool effect in terms of speeches because we watch the Flash and everything, and it's always zooming around really fast, going the opposite way and just slowing everything else down as he moves at like what seems to be regular speed. Like it's a. And I looked last night on how they did the scene in Days of Future Past where he was running around the kitchen room thing.
Yeah.
Apparently it was shot at 3,500 frames per second.
Wow.
Nice.
So they could slow it down but still get all the right... Because there was raindrops everywhere and stuff like that. So any scene involving Quicksilver, using his powers.
And dropping Phoenix at the end. Like the Phoenix saga. Cool. That worked so well from last time. And why are they... Like a lot of the movie, I think you mentioned this in your review as well. It's essentially a retread of what's been done.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
It's the Force Awakens of X-Men.
It seems
but
like
not in a good way.
Bryan Singer made X-Men and he made X2, X-Men United. He left to do Superman Returns instead of X-Men The Last Stand, and that turned out the way it did. So he came back and did X-Men Days of Future Past. Everyone's like, he's back, we love it.
Who did First Class?
Matthew Vaughn did it.
Okay.
from Kick-Ass
Yep.
and Stardust. And so he came back and did that, and everyone's like, you're the best, so you can't do any wrong. So then he did this, X-Men Apocalypse, and it feels like a lot of the things he's put in this movie are things he missed out on doing in The Last Stand. So Angel was in The Last Stand, and he's redone him in this one.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Saga was done in The Last Stand, and he brings Jean into it and has the Phoenix power. Nightcrawler was his addition in X2 that wasn't in X3, and he brought him back as well. So it seems like he's decided, I'm going to do the things I wanted to do, whether it makes sense in the universe. Like in the timeline, the characters are younger and they've met each other, and that doesn't make sense. And thinking about it the other day, it retcons completely X-Men Origins Wolverine as well. Because Days of Future Past retcon The Last Stand because they changed time and all the old characters came back at the end who were dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Wolverine is talking to Jean and she says Logan, that kind of leads him into the snow, and then that's when he's searching Canada to find himself and meets Rogue, and that's what happens. Whereas and that's how he lost his memory. They did these tests on him. Whereas in X-Men Origins Wolverine, he gets shot in the head with the bullet, adamantium bullet, and that makes him lose his memory. So all the Gambit stuff, all the team, Weapon X team, Sabretooth and Gambit and
they've got Channing Tatum's Gambit if they ever decide to make it. Like it's just been...
Cinematic universe.
Well, yeah, just like not only retcon one movie, but retcon two.
Yeah, well, they did something to try to retcon all of it. But speaking of interesting, well, I guess the opposite is someone uninterested. So Jennifer Lawrence spent this entire movie looking like she had no interest in being there, even in the slightest. It's easily one of the most bland performances I've probably ever seen in my life.
Have you seen her performances in the Hunger Games?
Yeah, and it's about par. Like, the first movie she's in, like Hunger Games 1, she's pretty solid. Like, she emotes and she does good things. And, like, she's an Oscar-winning actress, for fuck's sake.
And then she got famous.
Retire.
Yeah,
she won it. She's like, I won it. I don't need to prove myself anymore. I can stop. But she's like, well, yeah, we can learn to control our powers.
Then don't.
Then don't. Or like, you're X-Men, so
forget everything you've ever learned.
Forget everything that you've learned. I've been at this school for like 10 minutes.
I was hoping that she'd be like, forget everything you ever learned. So Scott's like, okay.
Just wrecks the room. Yeah, they try to set up as this sort of hero for her actions in Days of Future Past.
What is that? Making her a savior, like the chosen one. You inspired me, Mystique. Like,
but now I'm a bad guy.
So you inspired me. It's like, well, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I was there as well. What about me?
Yeah, no, she was certainly not.
Right at the end, though, as we get to like wrapping this up, that came out when they were like training again. They were Sentinels, yeah.
Yeah, they called Sentinels, yeah.
Is that like foreshadowing? That they're giving another massive fucking circle with.
Well, no, because in the X-Men, the big thing is that they train in the underground facility, and the danger room is like this room that simulates all sorts of different
which they bring up in X-Men 3. Like,
it starts with in the Last Stand. There's a Sentinel before they actually did Sentinels, and everything like looks like a normal silver room, but then it projects holograms and turns robots into their enemies, and it looks like Magneto, and they're practicing to fight against Magneto, but it's just like a robot in a simulation room.
Okay. All right. Well, before we, where do you think X-Men could go at this point?
The 90s, obviously. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but like, I'm not familiar enough with the X-Men as a whole to know, like, because DC have like Darkseid and Doomsday. Yeah, but who's after Apocalypse? But even then, like, in terms of that,
if Apocalypse is the equivalent of DC's Darkseid, right? They're pretty. Well, I guess sort of like Thanos, sort of. They're all those three are all sort of on the same
Titans
tier.
kind of.
What is bigger? Apocalypse. The word itself implies there is nothing bigger.
It's kind of like Doomsday. You kind of expect that too.
Yeah,
like that's the end of it.
Yeah, like Doomsday, the end of days. And
did they say Doomsday in the movie?
Superman. This is your Doomsday.
It's kind of cheesy.
Where do they go from this in terms of X-Men stories? Because they went from here. This is the bar, 80%, as I said.
Mm-hmm. Well, Magneto's their big villain. That's their Joker, and he's always been in all the movies. Who else did they have? The Phoenix was in it. They had Sebastian Shaw and the Hellfire Club. Apocalypse is this one. They had at the end of the end credits post-scene teaser, they had the Essex Corp on it. I had to look it up to find out what it was.
I don't know who that is.
Nathaniel Essex is Mr. Sinister. He's like this immortal vampire that has like a fascination with the Summers, and he kind of manipulates their family, and there's ties into that.
That sounds so uninteresting.
No, Mr. Sinister's an awesome character.
if I was going to see vampires.
Yeah, he's kind of like a vampire. But Bryan Cranston was talking last year at one of the Comic-Con events and said that he'd be interested in playing a villain. Everyone's like, Mr. Sinister! So maybe he could do that. But then again, Oscar Isaac played Apocalypse and it was pointless. So Bryan Cranston could have played Apocalypse and it would have been horrible. Yeah. And Mojo is a big one. Mojo-verse. He's like this giant, fat alien that is in like this spider walker thing, and there's a universe where TV is like
no, they're not
everything, and they bring the X-Men to an arena and make them fight and get ratings. That's pretty cool, like this alternate universe. So there's still a couple of villains.
Every major comic series has done something like that.
Yeah.
Like Battleworld and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
like, even DC have it with the Flash and Green Lantern. They go to that kind of place.
And like, because they'll want to go bigger and bigger and...
yeah.
But like, what is bigger?
But even though the world was being destroyed, yes, and Sydney was blowing up...
No, parts of it were, like, bridges again.
But you never saw any people. You never saw the devastation. No. It was just like destruction of property. Like, come on, it's destruction of property and obstructing justice.
Despite everything in the world being fucked up, their plane was fine.
Yeah, I would be like, they're saying that mutants are like, give them a break, they're just normal people. But like, come on, dude, you fucked up the entire world. I'm sorry.
They got rid of all the nukes, which was nice.
Oh, yeah. That was quite polite, yeah.
Then never forget the radiation fallout worldwide.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that.
They didn't set off the nukes, so they just put them in space.
The atmosphere is probably going to be...
Yeah, like those... like
acid rain.
Yeah, but like next time that you're like, you try to watch the internet, it hits a fucking nuke, blows up, and it's gone. Yeah. That's the real movie.
The satellite hits one, and it just chain reacts. Or they all gravitate towards the sun. And just
that would be cool.
I was disappointed.
X-Men
they teased me with Jubilee. Jubilee is one of the characters from the X-Men comics, and she was prominent in the X-Men animated series.
Yeah, that's the yellow jacket.
Yeah, yellow jacket, half Asian. She's got the pigtails and the glasses. And she doesn't... I don't think she has one line like, oh, let's go to the mall. Yeah, they use that all the advertising. Yep. There's interviews on the internet where she's like talking about her character, and then she's not even in it.
Road cut? Jubilee cut?
Maybe.
No. Can we have none of that, please?
And Angel, of course, is one of the core 5 original X-Men, and he gets killed off. And then Storm is there, and she's like...
We've already said spoilers.
Evil. Spoilers. And then she's evil, and she's kind of like standing out the front of the school like, I'm going to join the school. Like,
no, you're fucking
You're evil, you tried to kill us, you destroyed our world, you're not invited.
They're like, hey, I'm going to give you power, I'm going to dye your mohawk. And then she becomes a bad person. And then when the time of need, she's just off to the side going,
watching.
It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. But then again, Psylocke got away, so does that have any implications?
Oh no, she had some. She slunk off pretty evilly, and she did kind of do one of those.
Like, I'll be back.
If it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's still places to go. I like that they've got the core team back.
Can we just get a solo Quicksilver movie? Please?
I think it would wear out. I think he is the Hulk of their Avengers. Yeah. It works in small doses in their movie. Like a movie that was just that, it would play thin really quickly. Pun intended.
I don't know, maybe. Yeah, whatever.
Final thoughts?
Tried, failed. I could see what they were trying to do, and all the emotional parts, like Xavier dying, or I felt like I should have felt it. I didn't feel it.
No.
It didn't. Nothing gripped me to be invested in the characters or the plot.
Well, like I said, yeah, in my review, it's like this is the kind of movie where people are like, I don't want to see a comic book movie. It's dumb and loud and one-dimensional characters, and this was like watching some kid play with their toys and like, shoot my lasers,
and then
he makes a big X out of building.
Yeah, but I mean, I've always said Bryan Singer. Because this is technically the reboot.
Can I mention the opening credits look like a DVD menu?
Yeah,
yes,
that was
they do.
Weird with the Egyptian hieroglyphics and.
Oh, very good.
But yeah, I think they need to reboot it. Like, imagine a fresh, complete take on it, where it's not wire work and it's not wearing these stupid black jumpsuits. I'd love to see. I don't think it's going to happen, but Marvel do their own version of the X-Men would be incredible. And I think this X-Men is it was made before any of the superhero movies came out. Yeah. And it's stuck in the Daredevil original Hulk,
Fantastic
Four kind
era.
of view. Yeah. Whereas it needs to be 2008 Dark Knight, Iron Man onwards, reinvigorated.
Yeah. I already said my piece.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Cool. He's said his piece.
Yeah, this movie is. I think I said before, it's underwhelming. It went too big, couldn't back it up. A lot of one-dimensional characters. There are some standout performances, but however, they weren't enough to save the movie as a whole. I agree with Dylan's score of 4 on his written review.
Give it back to Marvel.
I do think this may be the last X-Men movie under Fox.
Okay.
Or at least they
they'll
would start looking at negotiating. It's very similar to the Spider-Man deal. This movie will make bank, but I think it's been critically kind of not Batman vs Superman level, but it has been given very average reviews. And the Wolverine movie would be very interesting to see, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that, which they foreshadowed at the end as well. But
the thing I look for these days in comic book movies is that they need, like, comic book movies boost sales of that comic. Like Deadpool was coming out, Deadpool comic sales went right up. Batman v Superman, same thing. Avengers, same thing. Like, casual people go watch the movie and go, I dig that. I'd like to read the comics. I can't see anyone watching any X-Men movies and going, I want to know more. I'm going to go read the comic books.
Well, the thing is, like, with this one, I can't really judge it on the things it isn't, but there were so many things in this. Like, Apocalypse has strong ties to the Angel character, turning him into Archangel, and he is in the movie as well, but one of the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse, and there's this deep background there.
Okay.
And with Deadpool being so awesome and having ties to the X-Men universe, Cable, who is, in a long, roundabout way, Cyclops and Jean's son from the future, who battles Apocalypse throughout time, and Deadpool at the end credits promised that Cable would be in Deadpool 2, and he's a fan favourite character that no one's seen yet. So I thought they might tie Cable into this and have all this time travel amazing coolness, and they didn't, and it seems weird that they didn't, considering how popular Deadpool was and how they want to bank off of that. So it's just like missed opportunities. Yeah. And the biggest thing is, like, once you've done Apocalypse, you can't do them again. Like, if you reboot it in like 15 years,
they literally blew him up.
Yeah, like you can't. If you do a character Injustice, then you can't be like, oh, we'll bring it back in the sequel and just do them again and pretend we didn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you've done it. The world has seen that version of it. Yeah. You got to stick with it.
The movie said it itself. The third one's always the worst. I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
I'm Dylan.
We are Pop Culturists. This is Pop CTV. Be sure to check us on all social medias, Facebook, Twitter. You can also email us as well. All the links are in the description below. But be sure to always go to thepopculturist.com to read Dylan's review, to read stuff that we write, and everything you need for pop culture.
Bye.